dog sitting for 4 weeks, and she was telling me that actually the change in him was pretty incredible. She said he went from a dog that would just barked nonstop to a dog that when he barked, I went to the window, I said, it's okay. And he was like, all right. And he came and he sat down beside me and he laid down. And she was like, I know that you talk about this stuff all the time, Mom, but I never really get a chance to it doesn't really happen to me because you're in the room and the dogs follow you and they're, and I was like, yeah, I guess that's fair. She said, but this was me building a very special bond with a little dog. And she said, I did it on the walks. I made sure I was paying attention on the walks. I made sure I was alert and I was watching everything. And she, she told me about the ding dong dogs that were in the neighborhood. And she's like, no wonder he's barky. Like there's a lot of crazy dogs out here. And she said by the end, she had he was moving behind her. So encouragement for all, because that happened for her in 4 weeks. Yesterday on the podcast, we are talking about trust. Does your dog actually trust you? How can you tell? Well, we're going to talk about that today. Let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. Hey there, friend. One of the biggest tips that I can give you when it comes to living with a dog is this. If you say nothing or do nothing, you have agreed with the behavior. Yep, that moment when you're standing there staring at your dog in disbelief while they bark at guests, that silence, that's still communication, my friend. I will never forget the day I came home from work. I walked past my kitchen and there was my Doberman standing on the counter eating butter. Yep, just eating butter. And in that moment, I froze. I did nothing because, I wasn't expecting it. But guess what? I ended up agreeing with that behavior. So leadership means showing up in that moment, not after it. So if you're ready to respond to your dog's crazy antics with calm and clarity and be able to lead with confidence, build a relationship rooted in trust and not necessarily treats, come and join me inside the Fearless Framework, our 12-month online program. You'll learn how to read your dog, guide your dog, and to be somebody worth following. Go to beyondobedience.ca/fearless and join today. I'll see you there. Well, hello, my beautiful friend. It is Tracy. Welcome to Beyond Obedience, the podcast. Super duper welcome if you're brand new. So glad that you are here. I am so glad that you are here. If someone shared this podcast with you, make sure you tell them, hey, from Tracy, because that's the whole point. The whole point of all of this is to get more and more dog lovers like you and me on board with this idea of being the best versions of ourselves so that we can influence our dog's behavior and not trying to control them all the time. You know what I'm saying? Oh my gosh, just the idea of letting go of control. Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't it just kind of make you go, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just live, coexist with another species and have it be easy? Oh, yes, it is. It is easy. Now, let me I'm going to be real. Let me tell you this, friend. It's not like every day is like that. I'm living with a 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy right now. And there are days. But then there are also days. Where it is easy. You know what I'm saying? Like there's days and then there's days. You get what I'm saying? You're probably like, you haven't said a damn word, Tracy. They're off to a rough start. It's That's what you get. We're drawing 2025 off with a close soon, and this is all that's left. Anyone else feel that? Like, do you feel that, friend? I feel that. I will tell you something, actually, since I'm just not at all on topic. Let me tell you what happened to me this morning, because I'm out in the barn, doing the things. I'm letting ducks out. I'm letting horses out. I'm mucking stalls. Mark's home with me, which is nice because he does all like the lifting stuff, which I thoroughly enjoy. Like having a break from having to lug buckets through mud and snow is delightful to me. So he's doing all of that stuff. Everything's going well. I go to walk across the floor of, let me tell you too, the barn. Okay. I'm not talking about the uneven, icy, muddy mess that is my current paddock situation. No. I was just walking across the barn floor, and my foot must have hit an ever so slightly uneven surface. And my ankle was like, nope, that's it for me today. And it's like my body just started crumbling. And there was how sometimes you kind of trip and then you catch yourself. You're like, ooh, that's a close one. I didn't even catch myself. My body went, well, I guess that's it for you. And then I just kind of crumbled down to the ground. And I hit my elbow and my knee. And I didn't make a noise. That was the thing. Mark was putting all the tools away. He was still in the barn. He was putting all the tools away. By the time he looked over, I was just lying like starfish on the floor. And he didn't even know what to say. like he was like, are you, what? Because he's like, he couldn't tell that I'd fallen. And it just, this silent tears are coming down. Some of it's, when you first fall, if you're like me, that first moment after you fall, you're like, is everything, like, can I move things? Like I was like moving my toes. I'm like, what parts are hurting? I can't even tell anymore what parts are hurting. And he was like, I don't know what to, like, do you want help? I'm like, I don't even know. And then he tried to ask me what happened. And I'm like, I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even tell you if I tried. I don't know. Is there any, he's like, did you trip? I'm like, what would I have tripped on? There's nothing over here. Like I don't know. My ankle was just like, today, not going to work, and see what happens. And what happens is I crumbled. Crumbled. So now I have that like, ow, I bruised myself here. And I bruised my palm, the palm of my one hand. I hurt my shoulder. I've got a bruise on my knee. I don't know. It wasn't pretty, but felt like it was also in slow motion. Like I was like, oh no, and then fell. Anyway. That's how my day's going. So let's see how this podcast goes. Why not? Right? Like after you've had something like that happen, why not? Why not be like, let's get on the mic and try to say smart things, Tracy. Here we go. All right. This topic today is one that I do want to discuss. And I'm going to do like a bit of a warning here. This one might hurt your feelers a little bit. So you're going to feel the feels. I want you to feel those feelings, and then I want you to say how interesting, and then I want you to kind of actually really think about this. Because if I'm being honest, I think this is one of the bigger mistakes that many rescue adopters make especially when they get in a new dog, or fosters or whatnot. But when you get in a new dog and you have this idea that the dog trusts you. If we go back to what we've talked about before in the past, if you're brand new and you've never heard me talk about that 3 steps of building trust with your dog, the first step being that you want to make sure that the dog trusts you. That's step number 1. Then the dog will trust the situations that you put them in. And then the dog will eventually learn to trust themselves. And know that this isn't like okay, I've got the dog to trust me, check. Then I'm moving to step 2, check. And now we're on to step 3. That's not how life works, right? Especially when we're talking about trust and we're talking about all of the variables in the world that could possibly happen. So I've mentioned before in previous podcasts this idea that you're not going to, I can't say to you, step 1 takes about 3 weeks, and then step 2 takes about 3 months, and then step 3 takes, that's not necessarily how it works. It works how it works. It works with the dog that's in front of you. It works with how many things the dog is exposed to. It has to do with a lot of factors, even the dog's past, which you may or may not know about. So it takes time. And we always want to remember, My favorite line from Pat Pirelli, take the time it takes, so eventually it takes less time. But one of the things that always happens whenever I'm working with people that are working with a newly adopted dog or a rescue dog or a foster dog, and I will talk about this concept of trust, I'll say yes, or I'll say, does the dog trust you? And inevitably, many people will say yes. And when I say, how do you know? How do you know that the dog trusts you? And they will say things like, oh, well, the dog likes to hang out with me. The dog follows me everywhere. That's a big one that people seem to think matters. And the dog likes me, right? And I hate to say it, but none of those things mean that the dog trusts you. None of those things means that the dog trusts you. Affection does not equal trust, right? Affection, dogs can like you and still not trust you. That is true. They can like you, they can get into rhythms and patterns. They can start to believe that you're a good person to follow around because you will give them affection and they like being in your space, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they trust you. Okay? Trust looks different. And to be honest with you, when we're going through those 3 steps of building trust, where we're working on the dog trusting us, then we work on the dogs trusting the situations that we put them in, that step number 2 is the test. That's the test to see, does my dog actually trust me? And in a lot of cases, the dogs will say, no, I don't, right? That's what they'll say. Because here's some things that I want you to think about. What do we look for? What would a dog that trusts you look like? Right? For example, let's take that classic scenario that I've spoke about on many occasions, this idea of going and looking to see what your dog's barking at. Your dog is alert barking at the window and you're just, many people just tell the dog to shut up and then they get upset because the dog's not shutting up. And we've talked about this idea that when the dog is alert barking, all the dogs, I've told this story, I'll tell it again, but when I was running daycare and I would have my own dogs out in the dog yard with me on my property, if a new dog came out to that dog yard and saw the horses, and it was the first time they had ever seen horses, and they blow their top because they're like, what is that giant dog? And they rush over to the fence and they're barking. Every single dog in that play yard will run to the fence and go see what the dog is barking at, including my own dogs. Now, my dogs could very well be sitting back in the back of the yard, look up and go, oh, those are horses. Don't be a jerk, but they don't. They always go and check. Now, they do go and check and they'll be like, nah, it's fine. And then when the other dogs, especially the regular dogs and my dogs, are like, oh, we've seen those 1,000 times. Those are fine. Then they go back to playing. The new dog, admittingly, is usually the last to leave the fence because they're like, are you sure? Are you sure that's not going to kill us? That's a pretty big thing that's over there. Like, are you sure? And eventually they're like, well, if you guys aren't scared, then I'm not scared. And then they go and they play. And that happened every single time. And I remember very early on, I was like, why do my dogs go up there? Like, it's the horses. You've met those horses, right? But it's because alert barking is alert barking. It is part of the pro-social behavior of the dogs. It is dogs telling dogs, hey, something out there might kill us. Come and see. And the dogs go and check, right? So when we take that same core concept, when your dog is alert barking at the window and you're just sitting there going, it's nothing, shut up, and your dog is still barking, they don't trust you. What? They don't trust you. They don't trust you. You know why they don't trust you? They don't trust you because you didn't even look at it. You didn't even go and see. You're not trustworthy. You didn't even go and check out the threat. They don't trust you. Okay, here's another one. And again, some of these are going to hurt your feelings. Again, you're on a leash. You're not on a leash. You're taking this whole like understanding how your dog feels at a whole new level. Your dog is on a leash. I meant to say you're on a walk. Okay, keep in mind, I fell today and I'm having a day. So just hang with me. You're out on a walk. Your dog is on leash. Your dog sees something, another dog, a person, whatnot. They're uncomfortable. They start barking. You say to your dog, you give a little bit of like leash correction, a little bit of leash guidance, and you're like, hey, it's okay, come on over here. And your dog doesn't move. Your dog keeps barking at the same thing. They don't trust you. Ouch. They don't trust that you have what it takes to handle this situation. They're uncomfortable because they're feeling uncomfortable and they're strapped to a human that doesn't get it, that they do not fully trust. Now, does that mean they don't trust you in all situations? No, that just means they don't trust you in this situation. Now, why is that? Maybe it's because in the past you didn't see it. You didn't respond. You didn't actually see the threats that they were talking about. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe they're like, when they're on a walk, they are just completely in their own head, right? We do that all the time. I mean, hands up in the air if you're a person that really, you struggle to stay in the moment. I will say this, I'm getting much better at it. I've been practicing for a very long time. I really do try to practice. And it's hard. It's hard at first, but I really do try to practice that when I'm out with my dogs, I am in it with them. I'm in the moment. I'm paying attention to the things that they're doing. I had a really cool moment. I had a really cool moment the other day. I was out playing with the dogs and all of a sudden a single solitary crow was making a noise, and that off. I'm not gonna wait. I think I have it. Why I have that sound, I don't know, but who knew I would talk about crows? So there I was. We're out playing and whatnot, and it was a really still, quiet day. And then this crow started making a noise, and it started flapping overhead, and all of the dogs stopped and we all looked and we saw it in the air and it came down pretty low, like low enough for me to hear the wind movement, like hear its wings, like flapping. You ever been where you've been that close to a bird where you can actually, you can hear their wings working, like moving the air? And anyway, and I was looking up at the crow and then I kind of looked down and realized all the dogs were watching the crow as well. And I was like, this was a shared moment of us being, it was a shared moment of be with, legit, us all catching something out of the norm and us watching it as it went by. And then it kind of it came down over the yard, then it went up over the trees, and then it was gone. And the dogs kind of were like, okay, well, that was fun. And then they all went back to playing. But I was like, it was a moment. Anyway, so I try really hard. I've worked really hard to make sure that I get out of my damn head when I'm out with the dogs. And it can get really challenging when we're out on the walk, especially if we're walking the same walk. Like if you're just doing the same old, your dog's peeing on the pee mail and you're just walking the block and it's the same direction, it's the same stuff, and you're just kind of you're not in it anymore. You're just kind of doing it by habit. That's when we get out of our that's when we get out of the moment. We get into our heads and we're thinking about groceries or Christmas gifts or whatever we're thinking about, and we're not actually in it. And when that happens, there are lots of conversations and things that your dogs have with you that you miss. Little questions like, they'll find something, they'll look up at you see this thing, right? And you're just walking and you miss it. And so when we miss a whole bunch of the things that are going on with our dog, in those moments where it matters, where the dog is like, that thing over there is really I'm really freaked out by the energy of that dog or that person or whatever. And now you're like, oh no, stop barking. Now you're in it, but you're just saying stop barking. They're going to be like, yeah, I can't trust you. You didn't see any of the other things. You didn't see the cool stick. You didn't see the squirrel. You didn't see the, your dog is going to be like, you don't know. You don't know. So in those moments, your dog doesn't trust you. And again, I don't want you to take these things personally. Like if you start to notice it, you're like, oh, my dog didn't trust me. If you start to notice it, don't take it personally. Take it as feedback and go, okay. All right then. What can I do to make it better? How can I be more present? How can I be more alert, more aware, more in this with the dog? You know, I don't know if you had a chance to hear the episode that Paisley and I just did, but she was talking about her experience with one of the dogs. She was dog sitting, and she was dog sitting for 4 weeks, and she was telling me that actually the change in him was pretty incredible. She said he went from a dog that would just barked nonstop to a dog that when he barked, I went to the window, I said, it's okay. And he was like, all right. And he came and he sat down beside me and he laid down. And she was like, I know that you talk about this stuff all the time, Mom, but I never really get a chance to it doesn't really happen to me because you're in the room and the dogs follow you and they're, you know. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's fair. She said, but this was me building a very special bond with a little dog. And she said, I did it on the walks. I made sure I was paying attention on the walks. I made sure I was alert and I was watching everything. And she, she told me about the ding dong dogs that were in the neighborhood. And she's like, no wonder he's barky. Like, there's a lot of crazy dogs out here. And she said by the end, she had, like, he was moving behind her and he was like, and I was like, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So encouragement for all, because that happened for her in 4 weeks. She went from, so I will say this too, if you have a dog that's very, very barky and you're like, it's probably just who they are, maybe not. Maybe it's because you haven't been listening. Maybe it's because you haven't been listening. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of take this moment today and talk more about this idea of trust and what trust looks like, and really start to solidify that in your mind so that you know that, you know, trust isn't affection. Trust isn't a dog that likes cuddles and whatnot. Trust is a dog that when you say, I got this, they relax. Right? When something happens, when they get freaked out and you go, it's all right, but I got this. They go, oh, thank goodness. And they kind of step behind. They let you take care of it and they relax. Right? You can't have a dog that quote unquote trusts you if they're still barking, they're still alerting, they're still doing all of the same antics, and you're trying to say, you're fine, you're good, you're saying all the words, and your dog doesn't believe you. That's where we want to start. And hey, listen, again, no judgment. No judgment. But if it's something that you want to work on, highly encourage you to come on over to the Fearless Framework. Come on over to the Fearless. I know, I will say this, I've had so many people reach out to me like, I don't think my dog is fearful. Send me a message. Let me know. Let me know. Maybe it's not flat out fear like you think it's fear, but maybe your dog lacks trust. There's a little bit of a misstep in the trust building section. And if that's the case, then the Fearless Framework is for you. All right. I think that's it for today, my friends. So listen, if you like this kind of stuff, if you like this sort of reflective, hurt your feelings kind of stuff, if you want your feelings hurt twice a week, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Head on over to Apple Podcasts. Leave me a 5-star written review. It really does help to push the podcast out to more and more people. If you've had an aha moment, a how interesting moment, you want to share that with us and we can share it on the podcast, head on over to beyondobedience.com/contact. Hit that little orange microphone. Leave me a voice memo. Let me know how the podcast has changed your life. And as always, my dog-loving friend, get out there today and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you're amazing, and so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. And one more thing, this podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only and is not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.